Raymond, you know, this country is in shock, but is the discovery really that surprising given what we know from survivors' accounts of their time in these schools?
You're absolutely correct. This is the kind of story that is circulated in oral histories through knowledge keepers and elders and survivors for generations, really. It's so within communities, this was a known sort of fact.
You know, and many say that it reignites the need to meaningfully implement these 94 calls to action set out by the TRC, specifically to do with the unmarked graves, children who died at these schools, children who were murdered at these schools. What should be the priorities of implementing the calls to actions, given what we found out on the weekend?
Well, they're all interrelated questions. Calls to action numbers 71 to 76 deals with you know, acquiring the documentation from coroners, building a register to identify the identity of children that were lost, working with communities to properly commemorate the unmarked grave sites and the loss of children, and finally to also maintain detailed information on the location of those sites. Mm-hmm. So they're really all interrelated. At the moment, we're nearing the completion of a review of all of our 5 million documents, which should be completed within about a year and a half, so that we can say with confidence that we've gone through all over 5 million documents that the TRC acquired on the history of residential schools and identified all the evidence that we could find in our holdings that indicate a loss of a child. But that's not to say that there's not more information out there. As you just mentioned, the oral histories, the social memory of communities is much more profound and much more deeply meaningful and often much more accurate. So we recognize that this is only one of the many ways that we are able to record and keep and share this information, because it's really being shepherded for the communities and the families that lost these children. We're simply there to make sure that it's available, shared, and preserved for future generations.
You know, does the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation have a path forward that it wants Canada to take in the wake of this horrifying finding, such as, you know, we heard some demands for, you know, dig up all of the areas surrounding all of these schools. Is that something that you guys are advocating for too?
Well, we do have a plan to go forward with keeping the information about unmarked grave sites, how the investigations will be done. I think it's something that must be driven through community input. For the National Archives, following the calls to action, what we'd like to do is make sure that the information remains consistent, so that it can be comparable across communities, across provinces. It can have legal weight in court. It's beyond deniability. It's proof of these facts. So we want to shepherd and preserve the information. The way that it's acquired, I think, is something that must be done in collaboration with local community.
Raymond, thank you for taking the time to talk today. I know you guys have to be busy over at the centre as well.
Yes, thank you for having me.